Ah, the Mercedes-Benz G-Class. There are a lot of words I can use to describe a car like this. Iconic, head turner. I mean, look at it. It is literally the dream car for a lot of people out there. As you can see, I'm not where I usually film. I'm in Scotland currently right now, and we're going to be putting this car through its paces. That's later. But first, I've got the keys to this, which is the new G580. Alright guys, now I've not actually driven a G580 to date, so yes, this is the electric one, and before anyone wonders, the electric one is not the only one that's being shown in this video today. Now, first impressions of driving the G580, it's very much G-Wagon as you'd kind of expect, just like the G500 and even the G450 and of course the legendary V8 G63. They are big and their presence on the road is eye-catching. But the thing I want to test is how powerful this is, because this doesn't have a V8 and it just has electric motors. In fact, there are 4. This can even do a thing called a G-turn, which I'm hoping to test in a minute, because there's even an off-roading excursion in this car as well. So yeah, lots of fun things planned for the next couple of days. But I want to test how powerful this thing is. So let's just make sure there's no one behind me, which there isn't. Lovely. Well, let's do a launch, shall we? 3, 2, 1, go. God, considering this weighs 3 tons, that was 60. And you hear that growl, that was this, I think Mercedes call it G-roar. This is going to be a lot of fun. Now, after a good old drive in the G580, I think I've got my head around the car now. So now that the rain has also stopped, I can actually check out the exterior. Although I'm sorry, Mercedes, it is not as clean as it was. It looks okay here. When you see the back, it's a little bit muddy. But there again, that's what it's for. When it comes to the exterior is very, very similar to the normal G-Class. The iconic design, the squared off shape that all G-Wagons have is still really, really cool. Now, yeah, I did mention this is going to be a little bit mucky just because of the weather we've had, so sorry, Mercedes. But one thing I wanted to draw your attention to is the rear. Now, the rear on G-Classes normally have the spare wheel kind of in that like wheel housing. Not in this one. So in here, apparently there is a button and I can press this, and that's probably the biggest charging cable holder I've ever seen. Yeah, there we go. I wasn't actually sure what to expect on on that front, but hey, if you didn't put the charging cable in there, there was actually storage there, which obviously I'm guessing is waterproof. It would have to be, but max 10 kilograms. That is different. There's even a bit of storage on here as well, so very interesting. Apparently this locks with the car. I'll try it. They think of everything, don't they? It locks with the car. A bit like the fuel filler cap. Nice. Now, a couple of extra things I noticed. There's also this blue strip going down here, although you can't really tell because it's a bit mucky, but yeah, blue strip down here, I guess indicating the EQ-ness. In fact, Mercedes-Benz have actually started to get rid of the EQ branding. I read some time ago they were starting to do this, as in terms of not calling stuff EQG, for example, because that's, I guess, what this car would have been called. But no, they just called it the G580 with EQ technology. Okay, so for those of you wondering, when it comes to dimensions, length is 4,863 millimeters. The AMG is just a few millimeters larger. Width, 1931 millimeters. That is, of course, without the mirrors. If you add the mirrors on, it's 2187, and height 1969. Now, the range of this car is up to 283 miles. Now, yes, I know that's WLTP. It's almost touching 300, which is pretty good. The one negative I have on it really is when you look at the battery size. Now, the Mercedes-Benz G580 has a 116 kilowatt hour battery. This is quite big and sounds impressive, but when you compare that to, for example, with the Mercedes EQS, this has a 118 kilowatt hour battery. So similar size, and yet the range of that car is 481 miles. Aerodynamics of course play a huge part in making an efficient EV, and the G-Wagon being, well, basically a square brick, it won't excel in that area, but it will in an off-road excursion. And to get to this secret hidden place, where I get to spin the car around in lots and lots of mud, they gave me one of these, which, if I'm honest, is one of my absolute favourites. Now this is what a G-Wagon is about. G63 4-litre V8 in bright B&Q orange. It's not actually called that, but it is very, very orange. 585 horsepower for good measure, and in fact it's so fast I'm actually catching up some of the other G-Wagons. Although I do have to be careful going past this person. Excellent. Oh, it's so much fun. Now, is this the G-Class that you should go for if you were considering one? Well, I mean, some of you are probably going to be thinking, well, Nick, you mentioned about the G580 not being, you know, efficient in terms of electric. No, it's not. And neither is this car. Let's look at the MPG. 16. 1.6. And yeah, these cars aren't the most fuel efficient by any means. However, they do make up for it in other areas, which we will see in a minute, which is the off-roading. All right, let's go. Yeah, if you're gonna go for a G-Wagon, go for a G63. Unless you want to use G-Raw on the electric version, but it won't be as loud as that. It would be cheaper. I mean, a little bit cheaper. Okay, now, before I show you what the G-Class can do in terms of its off-road capability, which I will need some help for, just want to check out the boot, the rear seats, and of course the front seats. Now, in here, as you see right here, is 640 litres. But if you do fold the seats down, it will go over 2,000 litres, so there's plenty of space. But I mean, look at the detailing here on the rear. I mean, usually with a lot of car manufacturers, you'll find that as you go towards the rear, you'll see more plastics and things, but not in this car. Let's have a look at those rear seats. Now, when it comes to the rear seats on the G-Wagons, of course, this one here has quite a few gadgets. So there is a screen in my face. Now, I won't run through this screen here in its entirety, just because I do have a dedicated video that I have made on that. So I'm going to link that up above, and it'll be in the description down below. But just know that, number one, you can adjust it, and it's got a very nice, solid feel to it as well. It's like a proper tablet. But this is basically MBUX, which is the multimedia system. We'll briefly run through that in a second. This one is like a mini version of it, and you can watch content on here and all sorts of things. But yeah, dedicated video on that, so check that one out if you want to see that. But in terms of everything else, there's climate control adjustment in the rear, there's 2 USB-C ports down there, and micro HDMI. So if the multimedia system on here isn't, you know, what you want it to be, you can just plug something in there like an Amazon Fire Stick or something, or even a computer I tried as well. You can plug a Mac in here and actually just see your content on here. So pretty cool. But again, that quality in the rear is amazing. Everything is just super luxurious. Even the seats as well, the perforated holes here. These are heated rear seats as well, which is quite nice. Everything you'd expect a Mercedes-Benz to be. And this is just the rear. You wait till you look at the front. Now, for regular viewers of my channel, you'll know that the multimedia system in here is very, very good. This is MBUX. I said there was a mini version of it on this screen. So yes, it's all connected, surprisingly. But obviously, in the front here is the main part of it. So there's things like phone and navi and radio and media and all sorts of things on here, but I do have loads of other videos about that multimedia system. But I said I want to focus this video on basically what this car can do in terms of its, you know, performance, the electric, G63, and of course its off-road capability as well. So I won't run through any more on the multimedia system, but I will do a very, very quick tour, and then we'll get onto some fun stuff. So quick tour then. So in here we have, of course, a USB-C port in there, so a little storage area there. All this nice wood effect along here as well. Touchpad there. And of course, there's actually buttons here to control this screen if you don't want to use it via touchscreen. Then we've got all the climate control down here as well, so that's obviously pretty handy. Wireless charging, and of course 2 cup holders in there as well. Then of course we come on to this arrangement of buttons here. Now, I have to admit, I do know my way around a Mercedes. However, when it comes to off-roading, it's not something I do often. In fact, I've only done it once or twice. So I said I will need some extra help to explain and have all this kind of showcase. Now, when it comes to the steering wheel, this is all touch. However, if you go for the G63, you do have these nice AMG dials here, which are awesome because you have things like comfort, sport plus mode, which you can adjust all here. Yes, you can do it down here as well, but there's lots of adjustments you can do here, which is pretty cool. The rest of the steering wheel is touch. I'm not a huge fan of touch personally, but I mean, you do get used to it. I do have the same steering wheel, I just don't have the AMG one, and also the bits here. But yeah, you do get used to it because I do have a very similar setup in my car, just without the AMG elements. I think now is the time to do some off-roading, and like I said, I will need some help with this because it's not something I do every day. So, as I've mentioned, the Mercedes G-Class is an absolute weapon when it comes to off-roading. There's a couple of extra features which I had tuition on. First is what's called G-steering. This basically reduces the turning circle dramatically by torque at specific wheels. So in English, you can drift very easily and at very low speeds to get the car pointing the way you'd like, as shown here. Honestly, it takes a few attempts to get right and is only recommended, of course, on loose surfaces. Speaking of loose surfaces, next up was G-turn. Again, only recommended for loose surfaces, but this allows you to spin on the spot. Activated with one of the buttons in the middle, then you use the paddles and you basically just floor it while keeping the steering wheel straight, and you'll spin around like this in whichever direction you'd like. Quite a unique use case, but you have to be in a very, very tricky situation to need to rely on this. It was good fun though. Then there's the actual off-roading, which, if I'm honest, even with wellies, some bits I couldn't get through. Some of that was impossible even on foot, so I'm surprised even at a low speed it navigated through the random paths without getting stuck once. I guess that's the huge benefit from electric motors from each wheel. Now, G-classes have always been dedicated off-road vehicles, but over the past few years they have also had some on-road improvements as well. So even with the ladder frame chassis, which has been the basis for the G-Class since the beginning, it still performs in every area you can possibly imagine. Honestly, I'm not sure how many people are actually going to use this car to this literal extreme, but if you wanted to know some stats about this, ask me in the comment section and I'll message you exact things that this car can do in terms of the stats of like angle of approach and breakover angle, if you're really, really into that. Well guys, there we go. That is the off-road experience in a G-Class. One doing a G-turn here at the moment. I'd love to meet the person who designed that because it's so useful. If you're off-roading, I mean, not many people are obviously going to off-road, but if you are off-roading and you just need to turn on the spot, it's cool. I would recommend not doing it on the road though, because I can imagine it will tear up your tyres. But yeah, really cool. Wow. Special thanks to Mercedes for making this video happen, because yeah, without them, they obviously went out and kind of found this course to showcase this G-Class, but yeah, shout out to them. But guys, thank you so much for watching. Until next time, see you then.